Hey. Hey, thank you. So, for the benefit of the tape, as they used to say, welcome to Creative Network. And this evening, our guest is the artist Lily Sawtell. Welcome, Lily.
Thank you, Deb. I'm glad to be here.
So,
welcome to everyone in the room.
yeah, and just obviously this is a very formal kind of setting where it feels like we're at the front and you're the audience, but hopefully the slightly circular nature of the chairs will encourage you and empower you to chip in and ask questions at any point. So Lily, I always try not to find out anything about the artist or not too much about the artist, because then I forget to ask important questions because my brain's going, you already know that bit, you've already said that bit. So forgive me if I ask really like the basics. But first off, first question is, why did you become an artist? Was there a defining moment for you?
I suppose because at school, when I was at school, I would, well, my mum always knew I could draw, and my dad would draw but cars. So, and I was lucky when I was 16, I went and did a 2-year foundation course at Harrow School of Art. So I feel like very fortunate that I went at that time. It was in the 60s. I was too young to go. I think probably if I'd gone now, I would have really appreciated the time of being there and how amazing it is to be in that situation where you can just focus. But it was the time when every day I would do life drawing. And in my second year, I focused on being a sculptor. And in my first year at the art school, I also did an A-level in lithography. So that was a very interesting thing to learn how to print. So in a sense, things that happened in my first year there, we would have, what I really loved about being at an art school was my vision of what art was about was very limited at secondary school, but it suddenly became this amazing playroom, and there were also many things you could do, like, different ways of printing, all drawing and everything like that. And we touched on graphics as well. But one thing, being very naive and only 16, I got very, it was almost like you either was a painter or a sculptor, and all those other things like illustration or graphics, or at this particular School of Art, Harrow School of Art, they had a very good pottery department. And in later life, when I moved to Bristol, or actually before that, because I did a teacher training course after that, and one of my terms I spent in the ceramic department. So, and then when I moved to Bristol back in the 80s, I know there's this amazing place that doesn't exist well, it does exist, but not in the same way, where you could just do part-time courses there, And I remember doing ceramics again, because I'd actually found the way that I like to do ceramics. I'm not a thrower. I couldn't do that pottery throw dunk thing, but I like building and I like using clay. Clay is a really amazing thing to use. My year when I was doing sculpture at art school, when I was doing my foundation year, I was just using welding equipment and bashing out old car bits because it was, and casting in I think plaster and stuff like that. But I never used clay. So actually finding the fact that I like using clay. So for instance, my beginnings, when I came to Bristol, I made a lot of these quirky ladies. And my first one I did was called Maeve's I'm from London, and all my dad's aunts had names like Gladys and Mavis and Doris. And so I would bring these quirky naked ladies home, and my husband, who's sitting at the back, would say, not another one. Got to do something with these. And then in the 90s, I ended up, a friend of mine, her husband had started casting work for an artist, molding it and casting it in bronze resin. So he ended up I started ending up casting these ceramic figures in bronze resin. And so a lot of my time as an artist has been selling my fountains and planters. And yeah, that's what I did. But also coming along with that, I've done other things. So like before we moved to Bristol, I worked as a t-shirt designer. So I did graphic, so I would make these, and it was the time of the Falkland War. So we did lots of these t-shirts things with from army ones, but very interesting ways of working, because I learned how to lay out with text and everything like that, and drawing for silkscreen. You have to use very black on white. It gets that gets photographed onto photographic. I think it's gum that's painted on the screen. So that's how I, in a way, coming to, if we want to go to what I do now, what I looked at with all these images around from the book that I did, it reminds me of silkscreen printing. So I don't know if that answered anything. That was a meander. Sorry.
No, that's great. I mean, although I say I don't know much about you, I did have a look at your wonderful ladies, Doris and Mavis, on your website, and they are wonderful. But when did digital start to creep into your exploration?
I started when I was at art school. I did start taking. I started taking photographs. And then I think it was in 1970, or maybe it was 1967, I got a Minolta camera, which was a fantastic camera because it had a very low stop on it. And with very slow film, I could go around and take photographs in the British Museum, which I love going to because I love African art and oceanic art. So I would use that. Actually, I've got a picture that took. This is one of my pictures that I took. And that's my husband. So this is with my Minolta camera. So I just really love using photography. So I've always taken photographs. So that's what I like doing. And so that morphed into digital stuff because I would do graphics. So we did have a marketing company at one time, and I started doing, I don't know if you know why you get the term cut and paste in software, because that's what you literally did. So like when I worked doing graphic design, I would use a scalpel to cut your bits of artwork, and the paste was either Grit stick when I was doing the silk screen printing, or it was talgum, which is I like the smell of petrol, so it's it's very addictive. So it was just like very, I used to have to do black lines. You'd have a rotary pen that you used to. I don't know if anyone's ever used a rotary pen. You had to keep shaking it to keep the flow of the ink coming through. So in the 90s, a friend of mine who I'd worked with, she got an Apple computer, and she started using software on that. And so I ended up in the early 90s we got my first Apple computer, Apple Mac, and then the software that I would use then for doing layout was Quark. And Quark was just like, wow. You can put it anywhere you want, and you can draw these incredibly 1.5 thin lines around a, you know, frame on anything, or, you know, all these lines that you could, I mean, it was just like, wow, this is amazing. And I think at the same time, Adobe had started working with Photoshop and Illustrator. And then I think in the early 2000s, because I was doing a, you know, with my work, selling my sculptures, we did them mostly at flower shows. So we did Chelsea Flower Show for 20 years. So actually I did all my graphics is for me. So it was like our catalogs and logos, and everything I did was for promoting my work and other people's work when we used to do exhibitions. But in that early 2000s, what started to happen, I migrated from Quark to InDesign. Fantastic tool for doing graphics layout. And one of the things, what happened to me when lockdown happened, so this is coming to my digital stuff now. When lockdown happened, because I would always do life drawing classes. I love drawing, and I love drawing. I love getting messy and, you know, like soft black pencils, charcoal stuff. I like, and pastels. I like getting messy. So it was like when lockdown happened, I couldn't do, you know, all that stopped. And so I suddenly found these Zoom classes. So there, I ended up doing these Zoom classes. And and I've got, it's like when you do lots of drawing, it's almost like I've got drawers full of drawings. It's like, what do I want to do with all these drawings? So in summer of 2000, I bought my beautiful iPad Pro 12.9 with the most magical Apple pencil, the only pencil to use. So I started doing some of my drawings. I started gradually using my iPad, and to begin with, I downloaded Procreate, but it seemed like a foreign land to me. And because I had Creative Cloud, it meant that I suddenly started using some of the Fresco apps. So originally I used one called Sketch, and then it sort of then migrated on to Fresco. So I ended up doing these books for a friend of mine. I've got a picture here. So this was in 2020. I started doing, she did a couple of her children's books, and then this one I did all the layout for her in InDesign, but I did most of the drawings and the graphics in there. So, but there's a few other people's work in there which I put in the back, but I laid this out, and she got this printed on one of those book things that you can get online.
It's interesting because hearing you talk and that thing of you've almost grown up with the technology and moved with the technology, and that has been a really easy shift for you. Whereas I know some artists, recently we've worked with Annie Farley, who's a painter, and she started to explore animation, and it was, you know, it was a whole new kind of technology for her, and it really frustrated her creativity process. She had to find a new way into it. So when you're thinking about making your own work, what's your creative starting point?
My creative starting point is responding to something. So with my friend, she had written this book, and so my response was to, well, that's not my drawing, but I laid this out. But most of the other ones are my drawings. But it was like I would respond to what she'd written, and then sort of do whatever I did to go with it. But what happened with that, it gave me a load of information of how to use this software, Fresco. And one of the things with Fresco, which I really love, which Procreate doesn't do, is it does vector color. It does vector. So that means, I don't know if you know difference between vector and raster, which is pixels. You have with pixels is how many dots per inch you've got, and to make it go bigger, it will start pixelating. Whereas with vector and vector colors and vector lines or whatever, which is what Illustrator is it's
coordinates.
Yeah, it's coordinates. It means that I could cover that wall
Right.
with one of my drawings, if anyone wanted me to, because you can increase it.
It doesn't pixelate.
It doesn't pixelate, no. And it gives, and what I found, I've discovered this thing with, maybe a lot of you know how to use, you know, when if you ever use any of Adobe tools, paint bucket. So I've suddenly found that. So I've got, when I go on here, I can go through a little tour around. And yeah. And these are all, so then I did that, and then when was it was the end of March, I got a letter to say, would you come to the breast care clinic at Musgrove Hospital for a checkup? And I've never had one of those letters before. So on April the 9th, I went into the hospital, found this, it's the breast care clinic is in the old building in Musgrove Hospital, and it was built in 1942 for the American Air Force, or the American troops that were around in the UK then. And so it's this little tiny building that's what I had to find through and navigate through a maze of corridors, because over the years there are all these bigger buildings that have been built up with that. So it's like a maze. So when I went in and they did the whole thing of, you know, further scan mammograms, and then I actually had to have a biopsy on the tumor, and then the surgeon said, I think you're going to have a mastectomy. So when that happened, I went sort of mythical, because I equated myself with the Amazons. So Greek mythology, the Amazons, they have a breast cut off so they can become incredible archers. So with the fact that it seemed like a labyrinth that I was in, what I did is I suddenly had this way of how I would navigate my journey. I would equate it with Odysseus and his journey back to Ithaca. So I read Homer's, you know, I've read that story a long time ago. I've also read Ulysses, James Joyce, very difficult book. And also, if you've seen Oh Brother, the film, that is based on the same story of, and also Bob Dylan, one of my favorites since I was 14. I think his speech for accepting the Nobel Prize, he equated it with Odysseus's journey. So that's what I did. That's how I tracked my journey. And so I did this book, which I've got somewhere here. Where did I put my book? I thought I got it out. I'll just get it. I got my book. So this is my book. Here I am. So all the way around, I've left these illustrations. So I because I've had this experience from doing this book, right? I found how I wanted to use this software. And so, and when Laura came to visit Somerset Arts, when I was doing Somerset Arts Week, I printed all these out for that, and I had them all around the wall, and they just looked like silkscreen prints. So it felt like I'd done a journey. So it's sort of Greek. And what happened, I did a journal, and each of the bits that I wrote, it was also like the musical as well. So each bit had a song title. So there's this one, which is this one. This is from I took photographs with my iPhone all the way through and my iPad. So this is when I had the biopsies, and I call it first cut is the deepest. So that was my way of doing my journey, if you like. And when I had my last treatment, which was in February last year, I decided that I would start doing the illustrations for that. And the first illustration I did, she's here. Am I talking too much?
No.
Okay, this picture is a picture of, I think it was the beginning of March. I woke up and I thought, I'm going to take a picture of myself because, you know, all my hair came out. Have I broken it now? All my hair came out and all my fingernails came out, which was really hard for someone who does sculpture and stuff like that. So I took this picture of myself, and on my windowsill I've got Gladys. So this is Gladys. So I took, and I thought what I'll do is I copy her pout. So I did this photo of me pouting, and then I suddenly thought, I looked at the photograph and I thought, I just sort of brought it into fresco, and I started this drawing. And I just suddenly thought, I really like, because what I did is that's solid fresco color. So I used cyan blue and this orange color in every bit of the work, you know, every image. So
As a theme.
as a theme. And when I put it up, when I saw it on the wall together, it just really all, it made sense. It just made sense because it was like the theme of it going through. So
did you have the idea of the book from the start, or was it more that you felt you wanted to just creatively approach?
well, it was,
What was
I
happening?
actually knew that I didn't want this whole thing to be cast a shadow over me. So I suddenly thought, well, I don't know what's going to happen. Given the NHS was wonderful. I'm so glad that we have an NHS, because probably if I was in America, I'd have to sell my house to afford it. But anyway, that's what happened. And I just thought they were amazing. And I just felt like everything, you know, when I went to have my first CT scan, I don't know if anyone's had one, but it's like a big round polo. So I suddenly thought, Cyclops, that's a Cyclops. So I acquainted various things that I came across. And then they said I would need 2 types of chemo. So I ended up having 8 cycles altogether. So I had 4, they call it a cocktail of 3. So that was my Scylla, because Scylla and Charybdis. Scylla is a multi-headed monster. So that was my Scylla, and then there was Charybdis, which was like a whirlpool. That's when my fingernails came out.
Sorry, go on. So all these the symbology really that you're seeing in your experience, right? Have you put, is all that sort of,
it's all planned out in there, really?
Will we see that as we look through this?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's in the book. It's like I've gone through every bit of it's almost like it's a diary. It's a journal, but it's a diary. And I don't know, when I start linking up my I've got some I can go through it a bit more then.
Yeah. No, well, I done it. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I do love the colours. I must admit, and so, and presumably, whilst you're going through all of this kind of medical treatment, an iPad is quite an easy thing for you to keep with you. And
I took it out and I used notes. So every time I went in and I had 8 sessions of chemo. So I would go in there and I would write notes in it. And the day when I went in for my operation, I was lucky because they managed to get me in, but they had an overflow of people at that time. And so I was waiting a long time, and I sort of started doing memories, and I call it farewell left it, sorry. It was like memories of all my life, you know, sort of things that happened. And there's one image that I did, which what's happened when I also went to healer, and I also did this thing called mistletoe therapy along with all my medical stuff. And I went to this healer, and he said, he was really said, I wouldn't take you on if you were not doing chemo and that stuff. He said, but it's really good that you're doing something creative with it. And he said, and did you know that 1 in 2 people get cancer? And that's something that happens. And I just suddenly felt that I was really lucky that I lived where I did, that I don't know, it just sort of, you know, I just suddenly thought, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to let, being creative, I just feel it's like being playful.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just feel
You're using
here.
what's around you, though, aren't you? And you're harnessing your difficulty or whatever, however you want to put it, and utilising that.
Well, it's interesting that we saw that whole response, didn't we, through COVID? Because you must have been having treatment
With
through
COVID.
COVID.
Yeah, so I started 21, so that was April 21. So
Yeah.
the whole thing, I had COVID tests, and I had, you know, masked up. And I just think that the staff were just fantastic.
But we also saw that response, didn't we, from the general public, you know, through the rainbows and things like that. There was that instant response to this invisible threat, or whatever, you know, you want to describe it, that, you know, that terrible thing. And everybody responded by trying to be as creative as possible. And
Yeah.
Although, albeit you are creative, you are an artist,
But
you
then
still have the.
but different people find different ways of doing it. So it could be, I mean, the other thing I did lots of gardening, you know, and what happened was and I would call, you know, one of the references was it was the lotus eaters. I don't know, when he went to the lotus eaters, he had a very nice time with them. So we had friends would come over, and we were all outside, but we got very good vegetable plot.
A lot of people did, didn't it?
And yeah, so
actually, before we do go, can we just take a moment to get up and move around and just have a look at the image?
yeah, so it starts there.
So that's the start of the story.
Yeah.
That ends.
So it starts with a picture of me, which my husband said is a little bit. So he said, I've got rid of the wrinkles. So on that dress, it's not the sign 69, it's the sign for cancer, which the Greeks knew about. And carcinoma comes from the Greek word for crack.
Oh, really?
And they were aware of the crack-like nature of cancer. So there, the next one of the ones there, the first one is the labyrinth, which is a mashup of all the photos that I took in the hospital.
And did you know that about that?
No, I just found it out as we were going along.
You like to research it.
This one of you as a child, was that?
Yeah, that was oh yeah, I'll talk about that. That was when I was went for my first chemo, and I remember, and because you couldn't take anyone in because of COVID, I don't think my husband would have wanted to come in with me, but I remember walking through the corridor at that time and thinking I wanted my mum. So this was the dress my mum got me when I was about 7 or 8. So that is my first cancer treatment. I do look a little bit like Leonard Cohen in some of them. And when I had my radiotherapy, I visited 3 constellations, because the machines were called after Orion, Pegasus, and forgot what the other one was.
And the 4-3, that's something you like to work in? Or that line mostly?
I love square.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And actually, when you see the screen on, it's a good size screen to work on.
Yeah.
And the one where you're floating in the.
That's really good. That was, yeah, that was me having my radiotherapy.
Yeah.
So, the laser lights that come across, what was it Pegasus? What was it? Phoenix, that's the other one, Phoenix. So there must. Which is switch.
Yeah, the little experiment with wigs.
Yeah. We can. What was amazing, one of those pictures, it's called, I think it's makeup one. Everyone is amazing when you are going through this treatment, and Macmillan nurse put me, said you should do, you can't come, they used to do it in the Beacon Centre, where you would have makeup lessons, because obviously everything, my eyebrows, my eyelashes, everything, I was like a newborn baby. I went on a 2-hour Zoom call to learn how to put makeup on from a makeup artist, but also one of the key things for anyone who loses their eyebrows is to know how you plot your eyebrow. So I know how to do that. So if you go here.
Are some of the like illustrations breakdowns and some like sketched out and files that you are available for?
I'll show you. You'll see my secret technique. So we come on here. Here we are. So here we go into fresco. When you go into fresco, you have, I don't know if anyone has anyone here done drawings on iPads, had Procreate? You have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here you've got, well, you can see it on there, you've got the home. So that's your home page. You can go on that one, and then it's got videos that you can go to. If you look at it, you can choose videos, how to use it. Discover doesn't go in, shows you other places people's work and stuff like that. And you've got your files, which goes through all my files that are not the most recent of my on the iCloud, and you've got deleted and stuff like that. You've got create new down there, so you can choose from any of those sizes. And I think when you're setting up, you can choose whether you want to do it for web, which is 72 dots per inch, or for print, which is 300. So you can do, you've got that. But also, if I go back to my home page, I've got, this is the one I like to do, which is square one. So if I go to this particular one, I'll show you how this is something I've just learned how to do. It's the wrong way around. And this was one of the ones I think I did in Sketch. But if you go here to this control here, you can just go, I need to rotate you around. And there you go, which is very useful thing to know. So here we are, if I could take that one away. So here we are, this was the one this was my first one I did. So on here you've got, so I've actually taken the original image off, but basically I do an outline and then I play around with it. Everything apart from what I've done with this figure here is this is done with the brushes one. So what you've got is that takes you back to your home screen. On the title, you've got what name you've given it. And you can just go, you can see it's changing and you could go really big. You know, if you, oh look, didn't know it was that big bit there. So it can go really big, and then you can, if you do something you don't like, you can go back on it that way. And you've got these, so in this title bar, you've got that will remove something, that will put it back again, that arrow. That is a help thing. And then I think you can, you can share things with people. This one, this is where I found out about doing time lapses, but it's got various things that you can do on that. And then this one is, yeah, you can change your app settings and stuff like that, so I won't get into that. And this one will make you disappear all that stuff. And so this is your tools here. So you've got these, the one at the top is your pixel brushes. Those are your live brushes, so they do watercolor and oil if you want to do that. And this is my favorite one, which is the pixel brush, the vector brushes. And it's really easy, and that's the paint bucket that I've discovered. And that that's how you can import pictures and stuff like that. But if I go on to something else, come out there. All right.
Is this a free app, Lily, or do you?
Oh, okay. I think you can get it free, but it's a limited amount of brushes. I think you get a lot of brushes.
Like light.
I think they do. I don't know if they do it for $9.99 a year, but it's a yearly thing. But that's still a light one. But if you've say got Photoshop, I don't know if whoever's got an Adobe Photoshop, I think you can get Fresco for free. And what it means is, because I use those things, I find it a lot more. I'm more intuitive with me than.
Pay a subscription though from Adobe now.
But I've got Creative Cloud,
Yeah.
so I don't have to. I am paying a big chunk of money, but that's what.
You can't just buy it anymore.
No.
So this one is my party dress one. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take you out of that one, and I'm going to go to my file one here. And I'm going to play you my time lapse one on it. So this is my secret. Small photograph. There we go.
Do you find, like, since you used to paint on like physical medium, do you find it's a lot more like freeing and easy that you can just press undo?
Yeah.
In comparison to when you're on a canvas and you're like,
Yes, it's not so precious. And I guess what I found, I felt it's given me a freedom, even to the point where I've actually started. I'm sort of going to use it as a pre-painting, because I've got this one example of an image somewhere, which I'll show at the end. But somebody sent me this photograph, and I just loved the photograph so much that I ended doing it as a print for this friend of mine. And as I was doing it, I was suddenly realizing this will give me a really good way of painting this, because I really would like to paint it. And it actually has given me an understanding of color, because what you have got. We finished that one now. There we go.
okay. I think colour theory shows up a lot more on digital prints than in physical.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And you've got color management on this as well. So the next one I've got on there is this one, which goes with it, which is so what you can do is I've done it. You might notice that some of the outlines are used in in two drawings. So with that one that's just happened, I did the photograph and played, and you can play around with the colours in it. So I like the fact that I did that to the photograph. So you can play around with the photograph, and then I just can go. I went into that image of, let's say, party dress, and you can select the layers and then copy and then come into the new thing and paste it in, and then you can resize and everything like that. So that's really useful. So if we come out of there, go back to Fresco. So there we go. If I come into this one is, I've got a time lapse one of this. This is one that I did And if I show you down here, you've got sliders. So it's a really good way of working out colours and stuff like that. You've also got a colour picker there, so you can, you know, if I'm looking at something, I can pick a colour and then I can play with that colour. So that's been a good thing with that. This is where you bring your images in, so you can bring it in from various places. But I usually got photographs and then I mean. So that's, but if I go into this one again. It's done. And if I go to there, Photocyclops, this one, this is how I began. So this is me. I think it was when I went to have my CT scan the first time.
So obviously, when you're creating a piece,
Yeah,
there are obviously adjustments you can make with, you know, within the software, so colour and everything. But in terms of in your head, do you see it already, or are you working through the image as you kind of process it?
well, I think what I liked about this one, I liked what I was wearing.
Yeah,
And I just liked the fact of doing it with this sort of very, you know, black on white, you know, that yeah, and I like the outlines. But then what happened after that was I ended up going to the next phase, which was basically importing an image. Right, what am I going to do with this image? Oh, there was one point I found this, it looked like a face, and I thought I'll try it on there, but I didn't like it. So you can play around.
okay.
And so you know, and you can, you know, you see something works, or you see you want it bigger or something like that. And like with that one, I wasn't quite happy where it was placed, so in the end I placed it up there. And that's what you can play around, and that's something that I think is really good about
It's just the intuition of Mac again. I mean,
yeah.
to do this in Illustrator or Adobe or Photoshop, you can do these things, but it's so much complicated.
I couldn't do it. I wouldn't have been able to do it. I would have had to go on lots of channels to learn how to do it.
I'm always the same as you. I've always been from the first Mac to the current Mac, and each time I've tried to go on a PC, or I've worked with people who've worked in Adobe and Photoshop, and I've tried to get my head around it. And it's like, I can see what it does, but it's just like not very nice. It's just so nice to see that you had that idea and that this software works so well for you. And it's so, because the great things about Mac is it ties into, if you're used to using those systems, if you're using a similar format, it doesn't suddenly just change it all for something else.
What is so amazing, say for instance, if I go to where am I? I'm in the wrong place, sorry, go back to you. So if I go on these three, let me introduce you to these three dots, which are fantastic three dots. You can rename it. You can export it as a PSD to Photoshop. So that's what I go to Photoshop, and then I can, and then for putting it into this book, I made them into JPEGs as well. So it's very simple to make them into JPEGs. And
so you can just enter this level, what that's the thing, it's just for creators. You can come in and just play, or you can take it to such a, you can print books. It's great for doing that.
Yeah, and also, because I've always used in design for the last number of years. So it was just really good being able to, I love fonts, I love laying stuff out, and it was good to be able to do that. And I got this printed in Wells at St Andrew's Press.
Yeah.
They were so good, and I get them printed in batches of 50. So
Have you thought of printing any of yours like by hand, by screen printing?
what I am thinking of doing, because I suddenly realized back when I was at teacher training college, I did this thing on pollution, and I had I think I had about 6 images of trees on a hill, and they were lino prints. And I printed them, and I had all these other, like a jigsaw of bits of pollution, so that in the end it was completely covered by rubbish and stuff like that. And I suddenly realized that using this, I can use this in a way if I want to do lino prints. I could do my drawing on there. I could then, because obviously when you get to print from anything, it's reversed. And because I've got this on my face, I would always see it on the wrong side. And people's faces are different, you know, like, you know, one side of our faces are different from the other. So it's really good to be able to then, I would be able to reverse it out. I would be able to flip it and then see how to do it. So I think it's got uses for me, like I said, with painting, with me being able to sort out colours, because I feel like I've learned a lot about colours by using this software. And there's this other thing. So I've got this figure here. So these are some of the oh yeah, there's this one, 4th of July. This was my my last visit, 4th of July. I went, it was after I had the all clear about my, you know, my cancer it was okay. So I went to have my mammogram, and I asked if I could take a picture of the mammogram. So I've got the mammogram there. And if I show you, if I come out here and then go to files, another one there. Where are you? It's not there, but it was. Sorry, I thought I had one there that I could show you to go with that one. Maybe I can do it from here. Let's try and time that so we might go back through a load of stuff. Preview time lapse, there we go, and do that. So that's me bringing a photograph from somewhere else. This is me bringing an image, putting behind, and this is my brain scan. So I put that there as my, sorry, that, because the other thing, I made sure I got all my medical notes. So in the book, on the top of each page, I got this 3 discs from the scans I had, and I was playing this one after another, and I suddenly thought, it's my body, it's going through my body. And I ended up with my brain scan. So I've used bits of these images all the way through. Of every title page, there is one of my scans. But the other thing that was interesting, when I got my reports, when I had my operation, this wonderful, I think it was from Malaysia, this wonderful anaesthetist came to visit me, and I was complaining about all my fingernails coming off, and I said, I'm an artist. And he told me he was a calligrapher, and on there, he did a drawing for me of what he was going to do with my legs, because I had these amazing green surgical stockings on. And he said, in the operation, this is what I'm going to do. And they're going to put something on my legs to keep you not getting, I think, sort of blood clots, isn't it? So, and then he told me he was a calligrapher, and he has the most beautiful handwriting. And on my notes, I found the actual drawing that he put on my notes. So that's me in the operation. And then the other one I got, which was, I found the original, when I went in for my original meeting with the surgeon, he did this drawing of where the tumor was. So I've got this picture in there as well. I don't know, I mean, It's medical, that's what I was going into. I hope it doesn't turn anybody off.
No, but I was going to say, because have the hospital seen it? Have they got copies?
I've sent them, I would like it to give it to, well, take some there, because, I've had a few people, a lot of people now have read it. And, they have been very, I mean, it feels like it's nothing. You can respond to cancer in two ways. You can take it as a dark shadow, fill yourself with fear, be scared, or you can take it in a way that I think was like, well, I'm here. Who knows how long anyone is here for? We're here for such a short time. And I just felt like there are two ways to do it. And if anyone reads that and thinks, well, you don't have to be an artist to be creative. You can create a garden, you can do anything. It's just to take it in a positive way and just be really grateful that we've got the NHS.
Yeah, I just wondered about that because my sister had breast cancer and she was very young, and she read the model Mick Jagger, Martha Hunt, her book about having breast cancer, and she found that, you know, kind of like a little guide really to what she was then going to go through. So that thing of reading about somebody else's experience of it she found really helpful, and I wondered if other people, you know, would find that helpful too. And also
Got copies of the book to buy, 10 quid.
But also they've got a couple of, although it's labyrinthine in there, they've got a couple of galleries in there. So I wondered about the opportunity to exhibit some of the images.
Well, my husband did get in contact with somebody, didn't you, Dave?
What?
You got in contact with somebody about whether they would like an exhibition of it.
Yeah, it was, nothing came back.
No, but maybe we'll try again.
Yeah, it's worth speaking to Carol of Somerset Artworks, because I bet she would have some contacts, because I know they put work in there as part of Somerset Art Weeks previously as well. So.
I work at a medical warehouse that supplies the hospital, so I probably could.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah.
I was going to say, there's been a lot of research into having art in hospitals and how it actually affects patient recovery. It's not just there to make it look nice, it actually is part.
It's wonderful. I mean, that was the thing, because we used to do exhibitions of painters and people's work, and we would go along that exhibition corridor in Musgrave Hospital, and it was like, and when I was going to be taken for my operation, I thought, oh, there's so-and-so, I know that I've got one of her friends, and you know, it was, and going into you know, when I had my radiotherapy, you know, you lie down there and there's pictures of apple trees or blue skies as you're looking up, and then as you're going in, they've got artwork on the wall. Somebody had done murals to go into each one of the I guess whatever the machine is that you go on to have the radiotherapy.
The hospitals can be a bit sensitive with subject matter and what's depicted.
Yeah.
I know Bath had an old ship's figurehead, and it got an uncovered nipple, and
I've got a lot of uncovered nipples.
and they had to take it away and put it in store because it was considered inappropriate in. I mean, you know, if it's going to be appropriate anywhere, it's going to be appropriate in a hospital.
No, I can understand. I mean, my husband finds one of my images very, very difficult to look at.
Yeah, they are. It's a really inspiring story. I mean, the fact that you were faced with what you were faced with and turned it into something creative.
Yeah.
I mean, the images to me look like they could be put into a calendar. You know, even someone like Macmillan, you know, the story itself is very strong. The images tell the story. And I think that, you know, anyone going through that, it can inspire them to think what you're talking about, and not to think of it as that dark cloud.
No.
That's what it's come across to me. And the fact that you're using technology, you went into a hospital, which using technology to check you, but all the time you're taking that and you're turning it into something else
Mm.
because of your years of experience. I mean, it's a lovely story, so it works great.
And that was really lovely being out. I mean, I was a little bit sneaky sometimes. Should I be taking? Actually, it was okay with my phone, but when I went in with my big Nikon camera, I thought, what are you doing? People don't like the big cameras. No. So I did say, well, I was part of my recovery from cancer. Yeah, I'm doing this book.
But what next? What has it inspired you to do other subjects with this approach, or?
Well, my mum died in 2020, and I've always wanted to do, I was going to do a film. Maybe I will still do a film because I've got Premiere I can play around with, and I would like to come and use some of your cameras and stuff like that. I would like to book a studio or something like that. But my mum's, I would like to do her story as a children's book. And I do like using, you know, I mean, I do drawing, but you know, it's so much easier for me just to do the outlines like I'm doing, and then just play with how I want to colour them and everything like that.
Can I ask a question? When you've done the outlines,
Yeah.
That's fresco, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You've actually just drawn them on, have you? Or
Yeah. I'll show you
rather than using, you know,
Like a filter?
well, Photoshop has a tool that will find the outlines for you, won't it?
Yeah, I've tried that, but it's like, actually, I like doing it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like using what I use to colour it or how I want to colour it. So I don't think think Photoshop would do it. But maybe AI would do it. I don't know. It's getting
Yeah. From the Photoshop tool that does that is very
You've got to play with it.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking, like for me, because I don't draw.
Yeah.
You know, actually finding the outlines in a photograph, and you know, it's another approach.
It's another approach, and I think a lot of people. So, for instance, in these ones here, these were I don't need to really open them up, but these are my. I still do my Zoom portrait classes, and there's this amazing model. So these are my live drawings. I either do it live and I'm there drawing, or and these are, she does these amazing 10-minute poses, and I would give people, if anyone wants to do the you know, sign up for these Zoom classes, a guy called Hugo up in Glasgow do it, and it's so this lady will come on and she will start off and she'll have, it's called narrative drawing. So she'll come on with 6 suggestions for the pose, and then whoever is online chooses where the most votes go to. That's what she does. So she will do a pose. So they've all got titles, and I think this one, I think it's time. It's so fantastic. I think it's time to break up with my sleep paralysis demon. I just think she put this blue bucket on her head, and then she suddenly, there you are, you've got this pose for 10 minutes, and then she'll go on to, you know. So this one was, I think it was, I can't remember. Oh, this one was something that scared me. So I did this. I did it as a drawing, and then I went back and I sort of then play around it a bit more, and I put so if I turn this one on, you can see the difference. No, I can turn that off. I prefer it with blue. So you can do things like that, play with colours, which is fantastic. But yeah, I've got a reference to the screen in there. It was sort of like a scary thing.
And you're just doing this freehand on Zoom?
This was freehand on, yeah. So it was like so she does about 9 poses, and then what happens is other people put in suggestions and she chooses one and then she'll do the pose to go with it. So that's quite interesting.
How do you find it compared drawing like on a tablet with live drawing and doing it just, you know, on like very tactile kind of just with paper?
Well, they're two different but the same in a way. One of the things I realized, because it's like I'm working in layers, which is like not really how you do, but in a way, doing print, any print that you do, you get plates, different plates for different colors, you know, different screens and silk screens for different colors. So we're all sort of working in layers. And in a way, if you're drawing something, maybe I'll do a, you know, like a light bit of scribble for the face or whatever. You're sort of working in layers and then you're building it up, and then, you know, what color will I put on here, and then what color could I put on top of that? So you're, in a sense, you're working in layers.
Invisible layers, because you're.
Yeah, but
Is it freeing you up? Like, is it, because it's a bit more less non-committal, isn't it? Because you can.
it's freeing me up for space, because I'm all these drawings is like, you know, how am I going to fix them all? You know, what do I do with them all?
But you are limited to.
Yeah, that square.
This
What's in this square?
As
What's
opposed to
amazing? What's amazing?
But
When I'm working on it,
Yeah.
that one I can go right up. I can go right up to, whoa, like look at that magnification. I mean, that's a bad one to do that one. So this is one of the ones that I did, which was from this drawing that I loved, and it's so basically this is got all these layers, so all these layers in it. And that's, I don't know if Procreate has a limit on layers, but on Fresco you can do as many layers as you want. And
There's a whole,
and you can go in really, you know, like really into it, how close you, and if you wanted to do any, you know, take anything away, you know, with the pencils. So I've also got another one here.
it's a whole digital world of abstraction, isn't it? If
Yeah.
Picasso was around, he'd be using this.
Well,
The hot media, the Gauguin, you look at those prints and they could be lifted right from this book. They're not, it's paint, it's drawings, but it's has a similar graphic quality, doesn't it?
I mean, for me, as someone who went to art school back in the 60s, and there was a lot of hard edge printing. It was a revelation to discover oil paint. I love working with oil and drawing and everything like that. But at the same time, I just think this is an amazing tool, and you can have fun with it. You know, you can have fun with it, and you can, you know, I mean, there's a bit in me that's from that would say that's bad, very bad. You should just draw that freehand. You know, why are you tracing around? You know, that's very naughty. And then I thought, well, actually, I know David Hockney did a program years ago about how they would use mirrors. So the guy who did Girl with a Pearl Earring, was it Vermeer or is it Vermeer? I can't remember. He used camera obscura to do that project. So they were doing that, and I think David Hockney said even back in Renaissance time, some of their
I think Da Vinci did.
and actually what he would do is he would do a drawing, and they would be called cartoons, and then he would do lots of pinholes on it, put it on his canvas, sprinkle whatever on it, maybe charcoal, so then lift it up, he's got the outline there. So it's almost like, I know, something you can beat yourself up, but I decided I'm too old to beat myself up.
It's just another process.
It is a process, I just love the fact that, you know, like with this, well, that one,
You're still making decisions.
all the time. So for instance, this one, I was out shopping at Cabot Circus, and I suddenly I crossed the zebra crossing, and I thought, oh, I like that image of that. So I went and took a photograph. So I've got there's my photograph there. So it's there, and it's there as a reference. And one of the things I did is I found all these photographs that I had, like there's this one, which is you like there. I like the fact it's House of Fraser and I've got these pants in there and there's sort of, and there's a stuff like, no, we're not closing down, we're only having a sale. So I sort of felt like this, you can be playful and there's my husband in Five Guys, you know. And there's a little bloke down here there, so.
Can you mix your vectors with your sort of paint and stuff, or do you have to do it by layer? Or?
You do it by layer. What you might notice here, you can see the vector layers, you can see the pixel layers,
Yeah.
you see the image layers. So there is that, you can know what your layers are.
Photography, obviously, when you have a good depth of field and it's going soft, so
Yeah.
it's changing colour. Do you sometimes think about that with some of these images, because it's very graphic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to create depth in images like that, or
What
is
is
it
it?
just a different style of it?
I don't know, I really, with this, what I did is I used a lot of, I would go in there with my paint, with this one, the paint thing. You can go in and you can say, I would go into that image, I turn that on, but you wouldn't see it, I don't think, no one would, no. Turn this. So you can go into that image and you can take out the color of the sky, you know, you could go in there and say, okay, I want that color, and then you've got it there. And then you can go in there and think, well, I don't think that's the right color, I think I'll play with that color, I'll just make it. You know, you can change the hex.
Mm.
You know, the sliders, these sliders, go saturation one, and go really dark, or brightness one. So it's a little bit like you can play around with. And then also on it, you have. Well, I'm going to save it. Okay, come back again. Yeah. What you can also, let's get that back on again. You can go into here and you can play with more, you know, like on Photoshop. You've got, I have to open that pixel layer, so that would, yeah. Yeah, so you can go and change, you know, you can change the opacity of something there, and you can play like in Photoshop, you've got these different ways of doing stuff on it. And then also here you've got, I think it's this one, you've got color appearance. So you can do hue and saturation on it. So you can play with those images, those photographic images you put in.
I mean, with Apple as well, the branding, they're calling it fresco because they're reckoning they're artists.
Yeah,
They want it to be different from Photoshop
yeah,
and Illustrator and Adobe, even though it can do similar things to them.
yeah.
So they have to position it as something different, but it's clever. They're calling it fresco. People go, okay, well, that's to do with painting, and that's for artists that they go in, they can do what they can do in Photoshop and other things. So that gives it an edge, and that's why the software. Yeah.
It's just got a lot, like less focus on photography and more focus
Yeah,
on
exactly.
the paint
Yeah.
brushes.
That's a question. Do you think it's having this tool has maybe altered your choice of subject matter? I think relating it back myself, I found using digital technology to do musical stuff, it's changed maybe my direction of what maybe I might have originally done. So do you think you may not have done that Cabot Circus image there if you were going to go home and print it and you know, do it in a more manual way? So what I'm trying to ask is, do you think having this technology has maybe altered your choice of subject matter? I sort of said that, didn't I? Am I making sense?
Yeah, but I guess what is your, where do you find your subject matter?
Well, I suppose what I'm wondering is, does the tool open up maybe options that you may not have chosen otherwise? Does that make sense?
People would like,
Yeah.
would have like been like, oh, I don't want to waste the camera.
Well, you know, we're gonna canvas it, we're gonna photograph it, and maybe we're gonna do a screen print. I don't know. I suppose I was just curious if it made kind of gave you more avenues for subjects.
Yeah, I suppose it's like, if I wanted to do something physical, like, you know, I would start doing some sculpture, or I've been doing things like, I'm like a rag and bone man. My garden's full of rusted metal. Anything I dig up in my garden, I put it somewhere. For us, I'm a magpie, so I'm a magpie about things. So in a way, what this has done is made me realise I have a library of photographs that I have just sitting there. You know, what do I do with these photographs? And I suddenly realised, well, I can use them, I can play with them. And
So it has kind of given you another.
yeah, it's given me another, I think it's given me another doorway I can go through. And maybe
To reach different things.
yeah, and then sometimes, like I know there's a life drawing class that I can go to, and I know I will go to that life drawing class, and I will start just piece of paper, you know, take all the stuff I do take along and just do drawing.
Yeah.
You know, because same with my doing my Zoom class. It's like, I know, like with when she's doing a narrative poses, then I will use my iPad all the time.
Yeah.
Because I like the way it works. But there are other times where I just think, well, I will just draw, I'll just get my pencil, I'll just start with my soft pencil and stuff like that. But I think what I love the fact that I'm not frightened to dive in to this digital world.
Yeah.
You know, I know how, if I'm wanting, I do want to finish this film for my mum on Premiere, but I know for me to do that, and it needs a lot of time, and I've got to gather a lot of things because I haven't got any film. So it's probably a lot of images that, you know, finding from various places and working out graphics to go with it. And fortunately, my husband plays music, so I can have some, I can use that. But then what I've just discovered with this time-lapse stuff, I suddenly thought, well, this is great, because
that's
yeah,
really nice.
yeah. And I just suddenly thought, well, I can go off with this, you know. I just think it's like, why do you do creative things? Why do you do it? Because you have an itch in you to do something, but at the same time, I just feel it's like wow, it's just that wow. I would just want to be.
It's interesting what you're saying, because I think there's two things that strike me about the technology. One is it's very personal, isn't it? You have an iPad, it's a personal thing to you, and then you can never get it connected to other things because it's so personal and no one else can use it because it's only your login and all the rest of it. But it gave you an in to something that was happening to you that was very personal.
Yeah.
And so you could work on it. But also I wondered with the Cribs Causeway, the Cribs shop or the shopping centre, there's an immediacy to it as well.
Yeah.
You can just
charge.
You can whip it out and go, oh, I like that, capture that.
But you can capture that on your phone.
Yeah,
It's very different.
Yes.
and also I do love buildings. I go around, like I just look at architecture, and it's almost like, and sometimes it's not like I want something like that. It's like I want my particular angle
Take
or
on it.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
I mean, I really don't like using a phone to take photographs. Really.
So you do carry that.
I prefer looking through. I prefer looking through a viewfinder. I prefer looking through and being able to frame it. I prefer that.
Yeah.
But my camera is very big and very heavy,
Yeah.
and a phone is, you know, quite convenient.
Another point, you know, I kind of very vaguely think of Frida Kahlo because I think of her work where she worked on herself in her bed with her mirror.
Yeah.
And it's giving you that as well, hasn't
Yeah.
it? Because otherwise you would have needed a mirror and a pad of paper.
Yeah, I would. I have, well, a lot of them. I have this mirror in my bedroom, which is like, there's one picture, which, this is one of the pictures that made me cry. This was, I had lockdown hair. And then I got this diagnosis, so my hair was long, so I went to my favourite hairdresser and I said, just give me a chemo cut. So it's a great cut, I thought it's brilliant. And then I had, then when I went, my breast care nurse, I said, you know, will my hair fall out? She said, yes, and make sure you get an NHS wig, which I did, and I got a fantastic wig. You know, it looks, sometimes when I put it on, it looks like I've come out of my favourite hair salon, you know, and I got a pink wig and I had these broom hats as well. So I had a, you know, it was almost like whenever I went for my treatment, somebody would make a comment on whatever I was wearing. So that felt sort of like fun to do that. But this one, this was when I went into the shower. I think it was the second week after my first chemo, and I went wash my hair, and I suddenly saw this handful of hair. So I made sure I didn't let any of it go down the plug hole. And then I went out and brushed my chemo cut, and it reminded me of Donald Trump and a comb over, and that made me cry.
Yeah.
So that's that one. It's called comb over.
What about, I mean, as long as I'm not being too personal, did you sort of with your hair, for example, would you have kept that and used some of that in an art piece? And maybe you might have.
No, I kept, when I had my hair cut, I've got some plaits.
Yeah.
But the hair that fell out, no, I didn't keep any of that.
No.
No. I when I had my hair cut, he put it in plaits, and then I've got them somewhere. It's a bit bizarre.
Can we get in the conversation talking about camera obscura and the way artists can use tools like that to produce their art, and there's sort of similarity with what you're doing. You've got a photo in you, making it more less a direct representation.
Yeah.
That's exactly what photography was invented for.
Yeah.
Photography is literally like drawing.
Yeah.
And it's sort of come full circle, hasn't it?
Actually, Degas used to take photographs of those ballerinas.
Yeah.
Because I was always thinking, how did he do that? How did you do a drawing like that? You know.
Yeah, in that moment.
Yeah.
I think that's just well done for creating an end product, because this digital world, you can fall into it and spend months,
Forever.
years, and just not create something. So I've just finished watching Peter Jackson's Get Back, which is like several hours of the people in a studio and just jamming, but they don't get anywhere. And it's just amazing to see that creative process with these four guys. But still, there's just times when nothing happens. Nothing happens like after, and eventually something does come of it. But again, it just reminded me that you can just fall into that trap where you just keep doing something and doing something, but you don't produce anything. So it's good that you actually got to the end product as well.
Yes,
so when people talk about their ideas, if they don't physically produce.
But you seem quite productive from what you've told us with your, you have your ladies, your sculptures. So I don't know, it's an interesting point. I think you can get lost in technology. But
you can get back on
technology.
Yeah, like whereas before you would need like a computer, a graphics tablet, and or a camera then to take your references and go to classes, and it's not all in one place with or all places you could do it anywhere.
And what is amazing, because you start doing something and it's like it's a journey. There's so many things. Another door opens and another door opens. And if anyone is interested in knowing anything more, I'm very happy to talk to people or share stuff with them. But also, I've learned a lot of stuff from YouTube videos on how to do it. So there's this guy, I think he's called Carl T. Webb. I don't know, maybe it's Webster, but I've got some links to his, because in this, I've suddenly discovered, it used to irritate me. If you go on this, so let me go on this one. So if I go on this one, there's a spot down here. Actually, I won't do that one, I'll do it on here. Let's go to here, this one. I was going to try and do something. So there's this thing, and it used to be sort of coming in, it used to really irritate me. Right, it's a touch dot sort of thing. So if I was to go here and let's draw some. I don't want to do it. Well, it's because I'm not doing that one. Let's go. So you can open up loads of layers. If I go on there and I want to use black, let's use black. So I'm going to draw a, oh, no. Oh, that's because I've got that one. Sorry about this. Let's go to my, yeah, I'll do that one. So on fresco, you've got these different, yeah, on these vector brushes, you've got these different ones. I'm going to use this one now, and I'm just going to draw a very simple fish, right? And I'm going to put lines through it. Put lines through it there. And maybe put a line there. Do it like scales or something. Okay, one thing I could do is I could go to the eraser and get rid of all those. But probably if I did that, if I was to do that, oh no, I have to do that one. If I was to do that, you would see I would get a bit like, not really, I'm going into that line and I don't want to lose that line. So if I go back, put it all back, see that's what we can do. I found out that, I hope I can do it, is if I press the button here, goes like that, press it again, it goes like that. What I can do is I'll go back to the pen, there. We've lost it now, okay. Sorry about this.
So,
Go there. Yeah. Right, so if we go. Yeah, there we go. That's that one. That's that one. Yeah, so I can do tap twice and then tap again. And then what I can do is go like this. See that blue line?
and then you've got the old perfect edge, that's still there.
Yeah.
Again, it's such a.
Okay. So that's my fish. I'll get rid of that one. So here you've got all these another 3 dots. You've got all these other things that you can do. So you can delete layers. So I'm going to delete that one. If you've got loads of ones, you can select multiple ones. You can duplicate layers. You can do, and then I'll do this one, which I will set as a reference, but I won't do it with this one because I'm going to delete this layer. So let's delete it, go away. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto there and I'm going to change this to that one. And I'm going to increase the size of my pen, I think. So let's say, I'm just going to put, oh no, I've got the wrong, I've got to get rid of that now. Go away. That's why I didn't like to use you.
Stuck.
It's stuck. It's gone now. So, yes, I've got my new pen. So here I'm going to write,
Yes, I have.
right. So what I can do with this, I can then, like, put that up like that. I can, be down here, maybe. Yeah, that's what I mean. I can go and do. I don't know if that will take it. Well, yeah, it will. Well done. Oh no, that took too much. Put that out in there.
Basically, you're cleaning up the
I'm cleaning it up.
letters or whatever.
I'm gonna make it all look like one bit. And let's go back to here. So I can, because I want to get into the precise place. Just make my screen go bigger. That's here, that's another one here. We'll get rid of that. That one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Oops, did it too much there.
Through tutorials, did you?
I discovered that through a tutorial, yes, and
You're reading the manual.
no, or any of their learned tutorials on the front page. So then what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to now make this one into a reference layer. So click that on there, and if you notice, there's this funny little symbol on it. So it's a reference layer. So underneath here, I want to color this one, but I only want to, so if I go in, I'm going to choose what the color I'm going to use. Let's use this color. So I'm going to do, oh, I just noticed this one's got some black. So I'm just going to go to the paint bucket, and then I'm just going to tap, I'm on that layer, I'm going to tap there. And I'm going to say I want it better. Oh no, that was wrong, I didn't change the colour. So I'm changing it to that colour. Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to go to the bucket and I'm going to go like that. And then I can go, let's put it all there like that.
Are you using an iPad 1 or 2?
Well, I got this one this year, so it's a new one. Because I also didn't have this to begin with, which is fantastic. It's very expensive, but that was another birthday present. So. But it's fabulous. And I don't know if I can do it on here with this, but I would like to change the colour of that. So if I go on here, I think we go on that one. I want to change the colour of that. I don't know if I have to do it on the other one. No, it didn't like that, so straight. I think I might have to do it on this one. I can go in and just go on the line I've drawn and just change the colour. So it's just you can play around and you can find the colours that work and stuff like that.
So your work's quite bold, and as you said, vector based. Can you, with this software, be more kind of representational, you know, sort of like a painter might be?
Well, you can use a pixel colours, or you just or you can use say like a drawing pen.
So
and just bring that let's go, give them another layer.
You can create something that looks like an oil painting.
that's what I wanted
Oh,
to
yeah.
blend colours.
It has all those colours in it, so it has not live colours, but if you wanted to do a drawing, you just I wanted it. You could see at the moment that's a, where am I here? This is a very thick line, but you can make that go down very thin. So you can do a really fine drawing, lots of there, or you could then go to, you know, that if you go to the that's a live brush, so you could do you could say you want to do oil, right? So if you've got oil, you can choose any one of these brushes, which I don't use very much, but I'll try doing a filbert one, so you can see what I mean. You've got this, yeah. Or with the watercolor one, if I do that on another layer, you could go with sort of blue, and you can play around with the size of that brush. You can also change the flow of it, so you can and you can make the flow go.
It's a myriad of possibilities, but
Oh, no, that's not the water.
Think-
yeah.
For me, when I look at it, as somebody who, and I know art teachers always tell you what to saying this, but who just couldn't draw properly. That idea of being able to put an image underneath and to trace over it just makes it so accessible. Or it feels like it's more accessible to somebody who's a non-drawer. But I also like the, I like the time lapse.
The animated bit.
Yeah.
Is that, does that play out literally your history of players?
It goes, because some of the things that I've done in the past with really want this one. So
Because I noticed your little girls, you know, when you were a little girl, the dress pieces were coming in, I can't remember what the shape, a little bit like an X or something, seemed to be coming in one at a time.
yes,
Is that layer by layer?
it does every stroke. It's
stroke
like
by stroke.
somebody in some cloud somewhere remembers every little stroke you do. I mean, that's what, to one extent, it's scary. But another thing, it's like, it means that you can, you know, in that time lapse thing, you just get the.
But it has to remember each stroke anyway, because
Yeah,
that's part of its software, because it
Yeah.
can, if you can erase everything, so it will go back.
yeah.
and roll.
So every time you take the pen off, that becomes another stroke. So if you do lots and lots and, you know, like that.
Yeah,
I like the idea of kind of combining it with the projection. So it's almost like projection mapping, but you could literally be drawing and changing the, you
Yeah.
know, the building that you're.
Well,
In real
projecting
time.
onto. Yeah.
I don't know if you know, but David Hockney's got a new exhibition happening in King's Cross, where that is what he's doing.
The big projection.
So he's doing, that's what he basically is doing so many iPad drawings. And he's projecting the drawings onto the wall, onto the floor. And he's also doing time lapse things, so you can see how that drawing develops. So
I tried to sit in lockdown, one of my lockdown creative things was, we got the cathedral in Wales,
yeah,
and I tried to, I couldn't afford to do it, but the idea was to get the little statue talking and move with some sound as well,
Yeah.
and moving, you know, the
Yeah.
idea, subtle illusion that they were
Yeah.
moving and talking
Yeah.
to each other, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so I love that sort of stitching or whatever we
Yeah.
used to do. I don't know what they call it now, but.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
so how did you do that? Was that in film that you did that, or did you do a projection on it, did you manage to do a projection? onto
Yes,
the
but
cathedral?
it was very much in its you know, early stages.
Yeah,
Which I was using quite old tech. I was using what's it called? I can't even use it on the internet anymore. Flash,
yeah,
and I was using Flash animation and a projector software, but I was only doing like tests in my place. I couldn't afford to do a whole projection on Wells Cathedral.
yeah.
But it'd be nice as a potential project to, you know, get a team together and do it. I quite like the idea of it.
Yeah, we have talked to them about that,
They're
especially
very
when they were talking about bringing in doubt. The
Yeah,
sculptures there now, we do talk about filling in the other sconces.
Yeah.
With other things. that
But did you-
sculptures,
Did you-
but project them into it,
Yeah.
yeah, with pitch
But
that.
did you
to-
ever see, there was a thing that I think it was Janet Street Porter did a whole program on visiting various church cathedrals, and she did one on Wells Cathedral where she managed to give you what it looked like when it was first built.
Like
on
colours.
the colours.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah. So Lily, I never asked you already, but what's the next thing you're gonna do?
Next thing I'm going to do, I think my thing is I would like to do this book on my mum. She's got, I love the fact that I found a really good place to print books. And I'm going to carry on with my square format because I think it works.
Yeah.
Oh, 4x3 film, and a 9.5 millimeter. We can talk about that.
But I would like to also do, some video things. I mean, maybe might be nice to try and do a video thing about my book. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
well, we should definitely talk. Would you join me in thanking Lily?
It wasn't as awful as I thought.
We've got some tablets if anybody wants to have a little go while they're still here. But also, can I just mention that we've just launched our artist in residence opportunity. So that's a chance to use the tech here, use the facilities, and this time we are again looking for an artist to commission an artist to make a piece of work in response to the climate emergency and the environment. But this time we're looking for a piece of work to be made for projection, for outdoor projection. So that is open now for applications. I just mentioned that. But yeah, thanks for joining. We're not rushing off, so if you want another cup of tea, let us know. But have a chat with each other and maybe have a go. And yeah, thank you. Thanks so much, everyone.